When a 32-year-old single father agrees to pretend to be the boyfriend of a young woman he barely knows, he has no idea that one night of deception will unravel both their lives. Behind her radiant smile are wounds that never healed, and behind his calm exterior is a grief he's never faced. In that brutal snowstorm, they'll be forced to confront their painful pasts, devastating truths, and a decision that could change everything. Stay until the end of this story, hit like, and comment what city you're watching from so I can see how far this story has traveled. Part 1. The conference room smelled like stale coffee and desperation. Ethan Brooks rubbed his eyes and checked his phone. 8:47 p.m. The snow had been falling steadily since 4, and now through the office windows he could see the parking lot transforming into something from a disaster movie. Fat flakes fell sideways in the wind, piling up against car tires and covering windshields faster than the wipers could clear them. "Just finish this section?" he muttered to himself, turning back to the spreadsheet that had consumed his entire evening. Numbers blurred together. His daughter Maya's school project sat half-finished at home, and he'd actually promised, to help her with the volcano tonight. She was 7, old enough to remember broken promises. The guilt sat heavy in his chest as he typed, but the quarterly report was due tomorrow morning, and his boss had made it clear that family obligations weren't an excuse for missing deadlines. Ethan had learned that lesson the hard way 3 years ago when his wife died, and the world expected him to grieve on a schedule that fit everyone else's convenience. He saved the document and leaned back in his chair, listening to the building's heating system rattle and hum. Most people had left by 6. The smart ones had left at lunch when the weather report started using words like dangerous and historic. But Ethan had stayed because staying meant he could pay for Maya's art classes and the new winter coat she needed and the little extras that made her childhood feel less like a tragedy in progress. The sound of crying cut through the silence. Ethan froze, fingers hovering over the keyboard. It was quiet, almost hidden beneath the wind howling against the windows, but definitely there. A woman's voice, muffled and broken. He stood slowly, quietly, like he was approaching something wounded. The sound came from down the hall, near the break room. Each step felt like an intrusion, but something pulled him forward. Maybe it was the rawness of it, the kind of crying that came from somewhere deep and couldn't be controlled. The break room door was half open, fluorescent lights casting harsh shadows across the linoleum floor. Lily Hart sat at one of the small tables, her face buried in her hands, shoulders shaking. Her blonde hair fell forward like a curtain, hiding her from the world. Ethan had seen Lily around the office. Hard not to. She worked in marketing 2 floors down, always surrounded by people, always laughing at something, always moving like she had somewhere important to be. She was young, maybe 24 or 25, with the kind of energy that made everyone else feel tired just watching her. They'd spoken maybe 3 times in the 2 years she'd worked here, brief exchanges in the elevator about weather or weekend plans, nothing substantial. This was not that Lily. "Hey," Ethan said softly from the doorway. "You okay?" She jumped like he'd fired a gun, her hands dropping to reveal red-rimmed eyes and mascara streaked down her cheeks. For a second, she just stared at him, caught between embarrassment and something else. Relief, maybe, or desperation. "I'm fine," she said automatically, but her voice cracked on the second word. She tried to wipe her face with the back of her hand, smearing the mascara worse. It's nothing. I'm fine." "Right." Ethan stepped into the room, keeping his distance. Because people who are fine usually hide in empty break rooms during snowstorms to cry. She let out a sound that might have been a laugh or might have been another sob. "I didn't think anyone else was still here." "I'm working on the quarterly report. You?" "Avoiding my life." She said it matter-of-factly, like she was discussing the weather. Then she looked at him, really looked at him, and something in her expression shifted. "You're Ethan, right? From accounting?" "That's me, exciting guy with the exciting spreadsheets." "You have a daughter." Wasn't a question, but Ethan nodded anyway. "Maya, she's 7. I've seen her picture on your desk." Lily's voice was steadier now, like talking about someone else's life gave her something solid to hold on to. "She's beautiful. She has your eyes. She has her mother's everything else, thankfully." The words came out before he could stop them, and immediately Ethan regretted it. He didn't talk about Sarah. Not at work, Not with strangers, not with anyone except Maya when she asked questions he couldn't answer without lying. But Lily just nodded, like she understood something unspoken. I heard she passed away. I'm sorry. 3 years ago. Ethan pulled out a chair and sat down across from her, keeping the table between them. Cancer. It was fast. That doesn't make it easier. No, it doesn't. They sat in silence for a moment, the wind rattling the windows and the fluorescent lights humming overhead. Lily wiped at her face again, trying to clean up the mascara mess, but she was just making it worse. Here. Ethan reached into his pocket and pulled out a small packet of tissues. I have a 7-year-old. I'm basically a walking supply closet. Lily took them with a small, genuine smile. Thank you. She dabbed at her eyes carefully, then looked at the black smears on the tissue. God, I must look like a disaster. You look like someone having a bad night. It's more than a bad night. She crumpled the tissue in her fist, staring at it like it held answers. It's a bad life disguised as a good one. Ethan waited. He'd learned with Maya that sometimes people, especially people who were hurting, just needed space to talk without being pushed. Lily took a shaky breath. My family is having this thing tomorrow night, a party. Very fancy, very important, very much about appearances and connections, and all the bullshit that apparently matters more than actual human feelings. She looked up at him. I'm supposed to bring someone. A date. Someone impressive, who makes me look good, and makes them look good, and proves that I'm not completely failing at the life they planned for me. But you don't have someone. I had someone. Broke up with him 6 months ago when I caught him sleeping with my best friend. She said it casually, but Ethan could hear the blade hidden beneath the words. My family loved him, of course. Thought he was perfect. Still bring him up at every opportunity, like maybe if they mention him enough times, I'll realize what a mistake I made and beg him to take me back. That's brutal. That's my family. Lily twisted the tissue between her fingers. They don't mean to be cruel, they have expectations, standards, and I've spent my whole life trying to meet them and failing spectacularly. So don't go. She laughed, but there was no humor in it. You don't understand. If I don't show up, it proves everything they think about me, that I'm irresponsible, that I can't handle pressure, that I'm not mature enough to be taken seriously. And if I show up alone, she trailed off, shaking her head. They'll spend the whole night trying to set me up with someone or pitying me, or worse, they'll seat me at the kids' table like I'm still 12. The kids' table at 25? 24, and yes, welcome to my family. She looked at him then, really looked at him, and Ethan saw something calculating behind the sadness. You're going to think this is crazy. Probably. I need you to come with me. Ethan blinked. What? To the party. Tomorrow night. As my date. The words came out in a rush, like she was afraid if she slowed down, she'd lose her nerve. You're perfect. You're older. You're responsible. You have a kid, which means you're mature and stable, and you're in accounting, which sounds boring enough that my father will approve. Wow, thanks. I didn't mean it like that. She leaned forward, desperation creeping into her voice. Please, I know this is insane. I know we barely know each other, but I just need one night. One night where I'm not the family disappointment. One night where I can show up and be treated like an actual adult. Lily, I'll pay you. I don't want your money. Then what do you want? She was almost pleading now. Name it, anything. I'm desperate here. Ethan should have said no. Should have made some excuse about Maya, about work, about the million reasons why pretending to be a stranger's boyfriend at a fancy party was a terrible idea. But something stopped him. Maybe it was the raw vulnerability in her voice. Maybe it was the way she looked at him like he was the only person in the world who could help. Or maybe it was because he recognized that particular brand of loneliness, the kind that came from being surrounded by people who didn't really see you. One night, he said finally. That's it. We show up, we play the part, we leave, and you owe me nothing. Relief flooded her face. Really? Really? But you have to do something for me. Anything. Stop trying to be what everyone else wants you to be for 5 minutes and figure out what you actually want. She stared at him like he'd just spoken a foreign language. I don't understand. I know. Ethan stood up, pushing the chair back. That's the problem. Text me the details. Time, place, dress code. I'll be there. I don't have your number. He pulled out his phone and handed it to her. She typed quickly, then handed it back. A second later, his phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. A simple smiley face. Thank you, Lily said quietly. You have no idea what this means to me. I have some idea. Ethan headed for the door, then paused. Lily? Whatever's going on with your family, whatever pressure you're under, it's not worth losing yourself over. What if I don't know who I am without them? Then maybe it's time to find out. He left her sitting there in the harsh fluorescent light, surrounded by the smell of stale coffee and the sound of wind against glass. As he walked back to his desk to shut down his computer, he wondered what the hell he'd just agreed to. His phone buzzed again. Another message from Lily. The party is at the Ashford estate. Black tie. 7 p.m. Is that okay? Ethan groaned. Black tie. Of course it was black tie. He hadn't worn a tuxedo since Sarah's funeral. He typed back, I'll be there. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Finally, you're saving my life, I mean it. Ethan stared at the message for a long moment, then pocketed his phone and gathered his things. Outside, the snow was still falling, transforming the parking lot into a white expanse broken only by the dim glow of streetlights. His car was buried under at least 6 inches, maybe more. The drive home took 45 minutes instead of the usual 15. The roads were terrible, visibility worse, and twice he felt the tires lose traction and slip sideways before catching again. By the time he pulled into his driveway, his hands ached from gripping the steering wheel and his shoulders were rigid with tension. Mrs. Chen from next door had stayed late with Maya. She met him at the door with a knowing look. The volcano? She asked. I'm sorry. The report. Maya understood. She worked on her book report instead, Mrs. Chen pulled on her coat, a practical gray thing that had probably survived 3 decades of Chicago winters. But Ethan, you need to be careful. She's a good girl, but she's also 7. She needs her father. I know. Do you? Mrs. Chen touched his arm gently. Sarah would want you to live, not just survive. She left before he could respond, trudging through the snow to her own house 3 doors down. Ethan stood in the doorway for a moment, letting the cold air wash over him, then closed the door and locked it. Maya was asleep on the couch, her book report scattered across the coffee table in her careful looping handwriting. She'd drawn pictures in the margins, a volcano, a smiling sun, a stick figure family that still included 3 people, even though there were only 2 of them now. Ethan gathered her up carefully, carrying her upstairs to her room. She stirred as he tucked her in, her eyes opening briefly. Dad? I'm here, baby. Did you finish your work? Yeah, I finished. Good. She yawned, her hand finding his. I love you. I love you too, Maya, more than anything. She was asleep again before he finished speaking, her breathing deep and even. Ethan sat on the edge of her bed for a long time, watching her in the dim glow of her nightlight, a plastic moon that Sarah had bought at a yard sale when Maya was 3. He thought about Lily in that break room, crying like the world was ending. He thought about Mrs. Chen's words, about living versus surviving. He thought about the party tomorrow night and the lie he'd agreed to tell. When he finally went to his own room and lay down in the too-big bed that still smelled faintly of Sarah's perfume, sleep didn't come easily. His phone lit up once more before midnight. Lily, I'm sorry for putting you in this position. If you want to back out, I understand. Ethan stared at the ceiling, watching shadows dance across the plaster. He thought about saying yes, about reclaiming his evening and his dignity and his simple, uncomplicated life. Instead, he typed, I said I'd be there. I'll be there. The response came immediately. Thank you. Good night, Ethan. Good night, Lily. He set the phone on the nightstand and closed his eyes, but his mind wouldn't quiet. Tomorrow, he would put on a tuxedo he hadn't worn in years and walk into a world that wasn't his to impress people he didn't know. He would hold Lily's hand and smile at her family and pretend to be someone he wasn't. And somehow, despite every logical objection his brain could manufacture, a small part of him was looking forward to it. Quote, the next morning arrived with pale sunlight and the sound of snowplows scraping against asphalt. Maya was already awake, sitting at the kitchen table with a bowl of cereal and her math homework spread out in front of her. "You didn't wake me up," Ethan said, pouring coffee into his favorite mug, a chipped blue thing Maya had made him for Father's Day 3 years ago. "You look tired." She didn't look up from her worksheet. "Mrs. Chen says you work too much." "Mrs. Chen says a lot of things. She's usually right." Ethan smiled despite himself. "When did you get so smart?" "I've always been smart. You just don't notice because you're tired all the time." Maya looked up at him then, her brown eyes, Sarah's eyes, serious and searching. "Are you okay, Dad?" The question landed like a punch. Ethan set down his coffee and pulled out the chair next to her. "I'm okay, baby." "Why?" "You seem, I don't know, different lately. Sad." "I'm not sad." "You're something." She pushed her cereal around with her spoon. "Is it because of Mom?" "It's always a little bit because of Mom," Ethan admitted. "But I'm okay, I promise." "Mrs. Chen says you need to start living again, that Mom would want you to be happy." "Mrs. Chen needs to stop talking to my daughter about my life." Maya grinned. "She says you're still young, that you could meet someone nice." "I'm 32, not 90. So you could meet someone?" Ethan thought about Lily, about the party tonight, about the web of lies he was about to weave. "Maybe someday. But right now, I've got you, and that's enough." "I won't always be enough." Maya said it simply, like she was discussing the weather. "Someday I'll go to college, and you'll be all alone in this house. That's sad." "You're 7. College is a long way off." 11 years, that's not that long. "When did you learn to count that well?" "Math homework." She pointed at her worksheet. "Speaking of which, I don't understand number 7. Ethan leaned over to look, grateful for the change of subject. They worked through the problems together, Maya's pencil scratching against paper, his coffee growing cold in its mug. Outside, the world was white and clean, the storm having left everything transformed. His phone buzzed around 10. A message from Lily. "I'm sending a car for you at 6:30. Is that okay?" Ethan frowned. "A car?" Lily. "I know it's weird, but the estate is about an hour outside the city, and the roads might still be bad. Plus my parents are sending it anyway for their guests. You'd be doing me a favor." He typed back. "Okay, but I need to arrange for Maya." Lily. "Your daughter?" "Of course. Is Mrs. Chen available?" "How do you know about Mrs. Chen?" Lily. "You mentioned her once in the elevator. Something about her making the best dumplings in Chicago." Ethan smiled despite himself. He didn't remember that conversation, but it sounded like something he'd say. He spent the afternoon with Maya, building the volcano they'd missed the night before. It was a messy process involving vinegar, baking soda, food coloring, and a significant amount of paper mache that ended up on the kitchen floor instead of on the cardboard model. "It looks like a real volcano," Maya announced when they finally finished, her hands covered in paste and her hair sticking up at odd angles. "It looks like we had an explosion in the kitchen," Ethan corrected, surveying the damage. "Same thing." They cleaned up together, Maya chattering about her day at school and her friend Sophia's birthday party next weekend. Normal things, ordinary things, the kind of moments that made up a life. At 6, Mrs. Chen arrived to stay with Maya. She took one look at Ethan in his tuxedo, slightly tight around the shoulders but otherwise presentable, and raised an eyebrow. "Hot date?" "Work thing," Ethan lied smoothly. "In a tuxedo?" "Fancy work thing," Maya giggled from the living room. "Dad looks weird." "Thanks, baby. Love you too." The car arrived at exactly 6:30, a sleek black town car with a driver in a suit who opened the door without speaking. Ethan felt ridiculous climbing into the back, like he was playing dress-up in someone else's life. The drive was long and quiet. The city giving way to suburbs, giving way to expansive properties, hidden behind stone walls and iron gates. The Ashford estate appeared like something from a movie, all lit windows and manicured grounds dusted with fresh snow. The circular driveway was already crowded with expensive cars, Mercedes, BMWs, even a Bentley gleaming under the exterior lights. Ethan's stomach tightened. What the hell was he doing here? The driver opened his door and Ethan stepped out into the cold evening air. Other guests were arriving, couples in elegant gowns and perfectly tailored tuxedos, laughing and chatting like this was just another Saturday night. No one looked at him twice. His phone buzzed. Lily. I'm in the foyer, near the staircase. Please hurry. He followed the flow of people through the massive front doors into a world of marble and crystal and flowers that probably cost more than his mortgage. The foyer was enormous, with a grand staircase sweeping up to the second floor and a chandelier that looked like it belonged in a palace. Lily stood near the base of the stairs, and for a moment Ethan forgot how to breathe. She wore a deep blue dress that caught the light when she moved. Her blonde hair swept up in some complicated arrangement that left her neck bare. She looked beautiful and terrified, and nothing like the woman who'd been crying in the break room last night. Her eyes found his across the crowded space, and her whole body seemed to relax. There you are, she said, crossing to him quickly and taking his hand. Her fingers were ice cold. I was starting to think you wouldn't come. I said I'd be here. I know. But saying and doing are different things. She squeezed his hand. Thank you, really. You clean up nice, Ethan said, and immediately regretted it. What a stupid thing to say. But Lily smiled, a real smile that reached her eyes. You too. The tuxedo works for you. It's tight in the shoulders. It's perfect. She took a breath, squaring her shoulders like a soldier preparing for battle. Okay, ground rules. My father's intimidating but mostly harmless. My mother will interrogate you, but she means well. My older brother will try to make you feel inadequate. Ignore him. And whatever happens, whatever anyone says, just follow my lead. Can you do that? Lily, what exactly am I walking into here? Honestly, I have no idea. But at least we're walking into it together. She pulled him forward into the glittering chaos of the party, her hand tight in his, and Ethan realized with absolute clarity that this was going to be one of the strangest nights of his life. He just didn't know yet how completely it would change everything. Part 2. Louis. Viết sau nghiên đến sau nghiên năm trăm to liên kết liên mạch với các phần trước trong câu chuyện và hội thoại tạo thành một câu chuyện liền mạch khi ghép lại. Mỗi phần liền mạch với phần trước, không giới thiệu lại câu chuyện ở đầu phần mới, liên kết các phần của câu chuyện một cách liền mạch, sử dụng câu chuyện tiếp giữa các phần. Duy trì chủ đề, tránh ngắt quãng đột ngột, không sử dụng gạch đầu dòng hoặc tiêu đề phụ, phong cách kể chuyện Mỹ, Hoa Kỳ, giống văn giàu cảm xúc. Kể theo ngôi thứ ba, giữ đồ kịch tính không viết lan man, nhân vật không hoàn hảo, hội thoại tự nhiên, tránh ngôn ngữ văn chương sáo rơi và cụm từ AI điển hình. Viết như nhà văn chuyên nghiệp, không như AI cố gắng nghe sàng. Có yếu tố con người, cấm miêu tả qua mượt mà và hoàn hảo. Kết thúc phần không giới thiệu phần sau, câu chuyện không nhắc đến Chúa. Lưu ý trả lời trong mục tin nhắn không nhảy sang document, chỉ dần bắt buộc. Không được xuất hiện trong nội dung truyện. Đây là một câu chuyện điện ảnh hoàn toàn hư cấu được tạo ra chỉ nhằm mục đích giải trí. Không đề cập hay ngụ ý rằng nó dựa trên sự kiện có thật, người thật hoặc câu chuyện có thật. Không sử dụng các cụm từ như dựa trên một câu chuyện có thật, theo ghi chép hoặc bất cứ điều gì tương tự. Tất cả các nhân vật, địa điểm, tổ chức và sự kiện phải hoàn toàn hư cấu. Show more 15 giờ 10 phút, Part 2. The ballroom was the kind of space that made regular people feel small. Crystal chandeliers hung from a ceiling painted with clouds and cherubs, casting fractured light across marble floors so polished Ethan could see his reflection. Waitstaff in crisp white jackets moved through the crowd carrying trays of champagne and hors d'oeuvres that probably cost more than his weekly grocery budget. Easily 200 people filled the space, all of them looking like they belonged in a magazine spread about wealth and refinement. Ethan didn't belong here. He knew it. They knew it. But Lily's hand in his felt real and solid, and that was enough to keep him moving forward. Smile, she murmured through her own frozen grin. You look like you're walking to your execution. I feel like I'm walking to my execution. It's just a party. This is not just a party. This is... What is this exactly? My father's annual winter gala. He does it every year to celebrate closing out his business deals and to remind everyone in his social circle that he's still relevant. She grabbed 2 glasses of champagne from a passing waiter and handed one to Ethan. Drink. It helps. Ethan took a sip. The champagne was good, better than good, but it did nothing to ease the knot in his stomach. Around them, conversations hummed with the easy confidence of people who'd never worried about making rent or whether they could afford new shoes for their kid. Lily! A woman in her 50s materialized from the crowd, elegant in a champagne-colored gown that probably cost more than Ethan's car. She had Lily's bone structure, but none of her warmth, her face arranged in an expression that might have been a smile or might have been a grimace. "Mother," Lily's voice went flat, all the life draining out of it. "You look beautiful." "You're late." The woman's eyes slid to Ethan, assessing him in 3 seconds and finding him wanting. "And you brought someone." "This is Ethan Brooks. Ethan, this is my mother, Victoria Hart." Ethan extended his hand. "Pleasure to meet you, Mrs. Hart." Victoria's handshake was brief and cool. "Brooks, that's not a name I recognize. What do you do, Mr. Brooks?" "I'm an accountant. I work at Sterling and Associates." "An accountant?" She said it like he'd announced he collected garbage. "How practical. And how did you meet my daughter?" "We work in the same building," Lily said quickly. "Different departments, but we kept running into each other and eventually we started talking," Ethan finished, following her lead. "Found out we had a lot in common." "Common interests," Victoria repeated, her tone suggesting she doubted they had anything in common at all. "How lovely. Lily, your father wants to introduce you to the Wentworths. They're considering investing in his new development project, and, Mother, I'm not here to be paraded around for business deals. You're here because you're part of this family, and this family has obligations." Victoria's smile hardened. "The Wentworths have a son, Dartmouth graduate, very accomplished, very eligible. It would be good for you to meet him." "I have a date," Lily said, her fingers tightening around Ethan's hand. "Yes, the accountant. How nice." Victoria looked at Ethan again, and this time there was something calculating in her gaze. "Tell me, Mr. Brooks, do you have family here in the city?" "A daughter, Maya. She's 7. The temperature in their little circle dropped about 20 degrees. Victoria's eyebrows rose fractionally. "You're divorced?" "Widowed." "Oh." For the first time, something that might have been actual human emotion flickered across Victoria's face. "I'm sorry for your loss. That must be very difficult." "We manage." "I'm sure you do." The warmth, if it had even been real, vanished as quickly as it appeared. "Lily, the Wentworths are by the terrace. Don't keep them waiting." She glided away into the crowd, leaving a wake of expensive perfume and disapproval. "I'm sorry," Lily said immediately. "She's always like that. It's not personal." It felt pretty personal. "She just wants what's best for me," which apparently means marrying someone from the right family, with the right background, doing the right kind of work. Lily drained her champagne in one long swallow. "Come on, let's get this over with." The Wentworths turned out to be exactly what Ethan expected. A middle-aged couple in designer clothes flanking their son, who looked like he'd stepped out of a J. Crew catalog. Tall, square-jawed, with the kind of effortless confidence that came from never having to worry about anything real. "Lily," Mrs. Wentworth air-kissed both of Lily's cheeks. "We were just talking about you. Andrew was saying how lovely you looked at the fundraiser last month." Andrew, the Dartmouth graduate, smiled at Lily like Ethan wasn't standing right there. "You were the only interesting person at that entire event." "That's kind of you to say." Lily's voice was polite but distant. "This is my boyfriend, Ethan Brooks." The word boyfriend came out smoothly, naturally, but Ethan felt the weight of it, the lie settling between them like something they couldn't take back. Andrew's smile dimmed slightly as he turned to Ethan. "Boyfriend. I wasn't aware Lily was seeing anyone." "We've been keeping it quiet," Ethan said, "still figuring things out." "And what do you do, Ethan?" "I'm an accountant." "Fascinating." Andrew said it like he meant the opposite. "I'm in private equity. Just closed a deal on a medical device company. $30 million in seed funding." "Congratulations." "It's not about the money, of course. It's about innovation, changing lives, making a real impact." Andrew turned back to Lily. "Speaking of which, I'd love to hear your thoughts on the Harris proposal. Your father mentioned you have some experience in marketing strategy." "I do, but I'm not really here to talk business tonight." "Of course not." Andrew moved closer, effectively cutting Ethan out of the circle. "But you have such a sharp mind. I'd value your input. Maybe we could grab coffee sometime this week and discuss it? Lily glanced at Ethan, something unreadable in her expression. I don't think that's appropriate, Andrew. I'm with Ethan. Right, the accountant. Andrew's smile was patronizing. No offense, but coffee to discuss a business proposal isn't exactly romantic competition. I'm not competing with anyone, Ethan said quietly, and I'm standing right here. Of course you are. Andrew looked at him like he'd just noticed a piece of furniture. No disrespect intended, I just think Lily deserves someone who can match her ambitions. Someone who moves in the same circles. You understand? Ethan understood perfectly. He understood that Andrew was an entitled prick who thought he could buy his way into Lily's life. He understood that these people saw him as an obstacle to be removed or ignored. And he understood that Lily was watching him, waiting to see if he'd fight back or fold. I think Lily can decide for herself what she deserves, Ethan said. His voice was level, calm, but there was steel underneath. And I think she's smarter than to be impressed by someone who measures his worth in deal sizes. Andrew's smile froze. Excuse me? You heard me. Ethan, Lily said softly, but there was something like admiration in her voice. We should go, Ethan continued, looking only at Lily now. I think we've been polite enough for one evening. He turned and walked away before anyone could respond, trusting that Lily would follow. She did, catching up to him near one of the tall windows overlooking the snow-covered grounds. That was either incredibly brave or incredibly stupid, she said. Probably stupid. Definitely brave. She was smiling now, really smiling. No one talks to Andrew Wentworth like that. No one. He's a jackass. He's a jackass with connections and money and the kind of pedigree my parents drool over. She touched his arm. But you didn't care about any of that, did you? Should I have? Most people would have. I'm not most people. Ethan looked out at the gardens, at the snow falling soft and silent beyond the glass. I don't understand this world, Lily. I don't understand how people can be so casual about treating others like they're disposable. It's all they know. All I knew. Until... She trailed off. Until what? Until I realized that everything I thought mattered doesn't actually matter at all. She leaned against the window, her reflection ghostly in the glass. Do you want to know the truth? The real reason I asked you to come here? I assumed it was to avoid being set up with Andrew Wentworth. That's part of it. But mostly, and she took a breath, mostly I just wanted to feel like a real person for one night. Not Lily Hart, disappointment daughter. Not Lily Hart, the girl who chose the wrong major and the wrong career and the wrong boyfriend. Just Lily. Someone who gets to make her own choices. You are making your own choices. Am I? Because from where I'm standing, it feels like I'm still playing a role, still pretending. She looked at him. You're the only real thing here tonight? Before Ethan could respond, a man's voice cut through the ambient noise of the party. There's my girl! Lily's entire body went rigid. That's my father. Richard Hart was tall and broad-shouldered, with silver hair and the kind of presence that made people step aside without being asked. He cut through the crowd like a ship through water, a smile on his face that didn't reach his eyes. Lily, you look beautiful. He kissed her cheek mechanically, already looking past her to Ethan. And this must be your friend. Boyfriend, Lily corrected. Dad, this is Ethan Brooks. Richard's handshake was designed to intimidate, firm to the point of aggressive, accompanied by direct eye contact that dared you to look away first. Ethan held his ground. Brooks, Victoria mentioned you. Accountant, right? That's right? Good profession. Stable. Boring as hell, but stable. Richard laughed at his own joke. What firm? Sterling and Associates. Never heard of them. Must be small. Mid-sized. We handle mostly corporate accounts. Corporate accounts. Richard nodded like this confirmed something. And you have a child? From a previous marriage? My wife passed away 3 years ago. Ah, tragic. Richard's tone suggested it was more inconvenient than tragic. Young daughter, Victoria said. That's a lot of responsibility for a single man. I manage. I'm sure you do. But it's not easy, is it? Raising a child alone, maintaining a career, trying to have some kind of personal life. Richard's smile sharpened. Makes you wonder if you're being fair to the child? or to anyone else who might get involved. Ethan felt Lily tense beside him, but he kept his voice steady. Maya is my priority. Always. But she's also a smart kid who understands that her father deserves happiness too. And you think you'll find happiness with my daughter? Dad, Lily said, warning in her voice. It's a fair question. Richard looked at Lily. You barely know this man. What, a few weeks? A month? And already you're bringing him to family events? We've known each other for 2 years, Lily said. We just started dating recently. 2 years of seeing each other in passing. That's not knowing someone. Richard turned back to Ethan. I'm sure you're a nice guy, Brooks. But let's be realistic here. You're an accountant at a firm I've never heard of, raising a child on a single income, living in what I'm guessing is a modest house in a modest neighborhood. My daughter grew up with opportunities you can't provide. She's accustomed to a certain lifestyle. I'm also accustomed to being talked about like I'm not standing right here, Lily said, her voice sharp. And I'm capable of making my own decisions about who I date. Are you? Because your track record suggests otherwise. Richard's tone was almost gentle, which somehow made it worse. Marcus, for example. I liked Marcus. Solid family, good career trajectory, shared values, but you threw that away because of some misunderstanding. He slept with my best friend, Lily said flatly. That's not a misunderstanding. That's betrayal. People make mistakes. Relationships require forgiveness. Richard sighed. But you've always been stubborn, just like your mother. I'm nothing like Mother. You're exactly like her. Emotional, impulsive, unable to see the bigger picture. He looked at Ethan again. No offense, Brooks, but I don't see this lasting. Different worlds, different values, different goals. You seem like a decent man, but decent isn't enough. Not for my daughter. Ethan should have kept quiet. Should have smiled and nodded and let the insults roll off him like water. But something in Richard's smug certainty, in the casual way he dismissed Ethan's entire life as insufficient, snapped something loose. You're right, Ethan said. I can't give Lily the kind of life you've given her. I can't buy her designer clothes or take her to fancy parties or introduce her to people with Dartmouth degrees and trust funds. What I can give her is respect, honesty, the freedom to be herself without constantly worrying that she's disappointing someone. And maybe, just maybe, that's worth more than all the money in this room. The silence that followed was absolute. Richard stared at him, his expression frozen somewhere between shock and rage. Around them, nearby conversations had stopped, people turning to watch the confrontation. How dare you? Richard said softly. Dad, please, Lily said, but there was something else in her voice now, something that sounded like pride. No. This nobody comes into my house, into my family, and has the audacity to lecture me about how to treat my own daughter? Richard stepped closer, his voice dropping to something dangerous. You don't know anything about this family or what we've built. You're playing house with someone out of your league, and sooner or later she's going to wake up and realize it. Maybe. Ethan didn't back down. Or maybe she'll realize that being out of my league is a hell of a lot better than being trapped in yours. Richard's hand came up, whether to point or to push. Ethan never found out, because Lily stepped between them. Stop! Her voice cut through the tension, like a blade. Both of you, stop. Lily, Richard began. No. I'm done. She was shaking, but her voice was steady. I'm done pretending that this is okay, that any of this is okay. You want to know why I brought Ethan tonight? Because he's the first person in years who's treated me like I'm worth something beyond my last name and my trust fund. Because when I'm with him, I don't feel like a disappointment. I feel like a person. You're being dramatic, Richard said, but some of the certainty had left his voice. I'm being honest. For the first time in my life, I'm being honest. She took Ethan's hand, her fingers trembling. And if you can't accept that, if you can't accept me, then maybe I don't need to be here. She pulled Ethan toward the exit before anyone could respond. They moved through the crowd, past staring faces and whispered comments, past Victoria's shocked expression and Andrew's smug smile. The front doors opened and closed behind them, and suddenly they were standing in the cold night air, snow falling soft around them. I'm sorry, Lily said immediately. Her breath came fast, clouding in the freezing air. I'm so sorry. That was That was honest, Ethan said. That was a disaster. Maybe, but it was real. He looked at her, this woman who'd been a stranger 48 hours ago and now felt like something more. Are you okay? No. She laughed, but it came out broken. No, I'm not okay. I just blew up my relationship with my family in front of 200 people. I probably ruined whatever business deals my father was trying to make, and I dragged you into the middle of it because I was too scared to face them alone. You weren't too scared in there, only because you gave me something to hold on to. She looked down at their joined hands. I don't know what I'm doing, Ethan. I don't know what happens next. Neither do I. They stood there in the falling snow, the party continuing without them behind walls of stone and glass. Ethan's tuxedo wasn't warm enough for this weather, and Lily was shivering in her evening gown, but neither of them moved. I should call the car, Lily said finally. Get you home to Maya. What about you? I'll figure something out. I always do. That's not an answer. She looked at him, and in the dim light from the house, Ethan could see tears starting to form. I can't go back in there. Not tonight. Maybe not ever. Then don't. It's not that simple. Sure it is. You don't want to be there, so don't be there. He pulled out his phone. Come on, let's get out of here. Where would we even go? Ethan thought about his small house with its worn furniture and kitchen floor still stained with volcano paste. He thought about Maya asleep upstairs and Mrs. Chen probably watching television in the living room. He thought about all the reasons this was a terrible idea. My place, he said. It's not fancy, but it's warm and real. And you look like you could use some real right now. Lily stared at him. You're inviting me to your house? Unless you have a better idea. I don't. She wiped at her eyes, smearing what was left of her makeup. But are you sure? I don't want to impose. You're not imposing. You're accepting help from someone who actually gives a damn. He pulled up the car service app on his phone. Come on, before we both freeze to death. The car arrived within minutes. They climbed into the back, and as the estate disappeared behind them, Ethan watched Lily and the rear-view mirror's reflection. She stared out the window at the passing darkness, her expression unreadable. Thank you, she said quietly. For what? For not running. Most people would have run. I'm not most people. No. She turned to look at him, and something in her eyes made Ethan's chest tighten. You're really not. The drive back to the city was long and quiet. Lily dozed against the window, exhausted from the emotional warfare of the evening. Ethan watched the snow fall and tried to process what had just happened. In the span of one night, he'd insulted a millionaire, defended a woman he barely knew, and invited said woman back to his house where his 7-year-old daughter was sleeping. Sarah would have called him crazy. Or maybe she would have understood. Sarah had always believed in helping people, even when it was inconvenient, especially when it was inconvenient. I miss you, he whispered to the darkness outside the window. I could really use your advice right now. But Sarah was 3 years gone, and Ethan was on his own, just like always. When they pulled up to his house, the porch light was on and Mrs. Chen's living room window glowed warm. Ethan paid the driver and helped Lily out of the car. She stood on the sidewalk, looking at his modest 2-story house with its peeling paint and snowdrift-covered lawn. This is nice, she said. It's small. It's nice, she insisted. It looks like a home, like people actually live here and care about it. We do our best. Ethan unlocked the front door as quietly as possible. Inside, Mrs. Chen was indeed watching television, some Korean drama with the volume low. She looked up as they entered, her eyes widening slightly at the sight of Lily in her evening gown. Work thing ran long, Ethan said. This is my colleague, Lily. She needed a place to stay tonight. Family situation. Mrs. Chen took in Lily's tear-stained makeup and shivering frame in one glance, and her expression softened. Of course. The guest room is made up. I'll make tea. You don't have to. I'll make tea. Mrs. Chen disappeared into the kitchen, and Ethan heard the kettle being filled. She's kind, Lily said. She's a force of nature. Ethan helped Lily out of her coat. The guest room is upstairs, second door on the left. There's extra blankets in the closet if you need them. Bathroom is across the hall. Thank you. Really? Lily looked around the small entryway with its coat hooks and Maya's backpack hanging on the wall and the collection of snow boots by the door. This is more than I deserve. Everyone deserves a safe place to sleep. Mrs. Chen returned with 2 cups of tea, pressing one into Lily's cold hands. Drink. It will help. Lily took a sip and her eyes closed. This is incredible. What is it? My mother's recipe. Ginger, honey, secret ingredients. Mrs. Chen smiled. You look like you've had a difficult evening. You could say that. Family? Lily nodded, not trusting herself to speak. Family is complicated, Mrs. Chen said, her tone matter-of-fact. Sometimes the people who should love us most are the ones who hurt us worst. But you're safe here. Ethan's home is good home, kind home. I'm starting to see that. Lily looked at Ethan. I should let you get to bed. You probably have work tomorrow. Sunday, we're off. Oh, right. She seemed lost suddenly, like she wasn't sure what came next. Well, good night then. Good night, Lily. She climbed the stairs slowly, her evening gown trailing behind her like something from a fairy tale gone wrong. At the top, she paused and looked back. Ethan, what you said to my father about giving me freedom to be myself, did you mean it? Every word. She nodded once, then disappeared down the hallway. A moment later, Ethan heard the guest room door close softly. Mrs. Chen studied him over her teacup. This is not a work colleague. No? This is trouble. Probably. But good trouble. She patted his arm. Sarah would have liked her. What makes you say that? Because she's brave enough to leave, even when it's hard, just like Sarah was brave. Mrs. Chen set down her cup. I'll check on Maya, then go home. You should sleep. Tomorrow will be complicated. She was right, of course. Tomorrow would bring questions and consequences and a whole mess of problems Ethan hadn't signed up for. But as he locked the door behind Mrs. Chen and climbed the stairs to check on Maya, who was sleeping peacefully with her math homework still on her nightstand, he found he didn't regret any of it. The guest room light was off, but Ethan could see a faint glow from under the door. Lily was awake, probably replaying the evening in her mind, probably wondering what the hell she'd done. He knew the feeling. Back in his own room, Ethan changed out of the tuxedo and lay in bed, staring at the ceiling. His phone buzzed once, a text from an unknown number. You cost me 3 potential investors tonight. Hope she was worth it. Richard Hart. Of course. Ethan deleted the message without responding. Whatever happened next, whatever consequences came from tonight, he'd deal with them. He'd faced worse. He'd survived worse. And lying there in the darkness, listening to the house settle around him, Ethan realized something that should have terrified him, but instead felt oddly right. This wasn't over. Not by a long shot. Whatever he and Lily had started tonight, real or fake, planned or accidental, it was going to change things. Change both of them. He just hoped they'd survive it. Part 3 lưu ý. Viết 6.000 đến 6.500 từ liên kết liền mạch với các phần trước trong câu chuyện và hội thoại tạo thành một câu chuyện liền mạch khi ghép lại. Mỗi phần liền mạch với phần trước không giới thiệu lại câu chuyện ở đầu phần mới. Liên kết các phần của câu chuyện một cách liền mạch. Sử dụng câu chuyện tiếp giữa các phần. Duy trì chủ đề, tránh ngắt quãng đột ngột, không sử dụng gạch đầu dòng hoặc tiêu đề phụ. Phong cách kể chuyện Mỹ, Hoa Kỳ, giống văn giàu cảm xúc, kể theo ngôi thứ 3, giữ đồ kịch tính không viết lan man, nhân vật không hoàn hảo, hội thoại tự nhiên, tránh ngôn ngữ văn chương sáo rơi và cụm từ AI điển hình. Viết như nhà văn chuyên nghiệp, không như AI cố gắng nghe sang. Có yếu tố con người, cấm miêu tả qua mượt mà và hoàn hảo, kết thúc phần không giới thiệu phần sau, câu chuyện không nhắc đến Chúa. Lưu ý trả lời trong mục tin nhắn không nhảy sang document. Chi dần bắt buộc, không được xuất hiện trong nội dung truyền. Đây là một câu chuyện điện ảnh hoàn toàn hư cấu được tạo ra chỉ nhằm mục đích giải trí. Không đề cập hay ngụ ý rằng nó dựa trên sự kiện có thật, người thật hoặc câu chuyện có thật. Không sử dụng các cụm từ như dựa trên một câu chuyện có thật, theo ghi chép hoặc bất cứ điều gì tương tự. Tất cả các nhân vật, địa điểm, tổ chức và sự kiện phải hoàn toàn hư cấu. Showmore 1516 Part 3. Morning came too early and too bright. Ethan woke to the sound of small feet thundering down the hallway, and Maya's voice, calling his name with the kind of urgency that could mean anything from a spider in the bathroom to the house being on fire. "Dad! Dad! There's a lady in the guest room!" He sat up too fast, his head spinning. Right. Lily. The party. The disaster. All of it came flooding back in a wave of terrible clarity. "I know, baby. It's okay." Maya appeared in his doorway, still in her pajamas, her hair sticking up at wild angles. "Who is she? Why is she here? Is she your girlfriend?" "She's a friend from work who needed a place to stay, that's all." "Mrs. Chen said you went to a fancy party." "It was a work thing." "In a tuxedo?" "Fancy work thing." Ethan swung his legs out of bed, fishing around for his slippers. "What time is it?" 8:30. The lady is still sleeping. I checked. "But Maya, you can't just go into the guest room." "I didn't go in. I listened at the door." She said it like this was a perfectly reasonable thing to do. "She was crying. Is she sad?" Ethan's chest tightened. "Yeah, baby, she's sad." "Because of the party?" "Something like that." Maya considered this with the serious expression she wore when trying to solve complicated problems. "When I'm sad, you make me pancakes." "Should we make her pancakes?" "I don't know if we should definitely make her pancakes." Maya was already heading downstairs, her decision made. "With chocolate chips. Nobody can be sad with chocolate chip pancakes." Ethan followed her down to the kitchen, knowing there was no point in arguing. When Maya set her mind to something, she was as immovable as a mountain. She got that from Sarah. They were halfway through mixing the batter when Lily appeared in the doorway, wrapped in one of Ethan's old sweatshirts that hung nearly to her knees. Her hair was loose around her shoulders, her face bare of makeup, and she looked younger somehow, more vulnerable. "I'm sorry," she said immediately. "I heard voices and I thought I didn't mean to intrude on your morning." "You're not intruding," Ethan said. At the same time, Maya announced, "We're making pancakes." Lily's eyes went to Maya, and something in her expression shifted. "You must be Maya." "I am. Are you my dad's girlfriend?" "Maya," Ethan said, his voice carrying a warning. "It's okay." Lily crouched down to Maya's level, which put her eye to eye with the 7-year-old. "I'm Lily. I'm your dad's friend, and no, I'm not his girlfriend. I just needed help last night, and your dad was kind enough to let me stay here." "Were you crying?" "Maya." "It's okay," Lily said again. "Yes, I was crying. I had a hard night." "My dad makes pancakes when I have hard nights," Maya said matter-of-factly. "With chocolate chips. Do you like chocolate chips?" "I love chocolate chips." "Good. You can help." Maya grabbed Lily's hand and pulled her toward the counter. "You can stir. Stirring is important." Ethan watched as Lily took the wooden spoon and began mixing the batter, following Maya's very specific instructions about clockwise circles and not splashing. There was something surreal about seeing this woman, who last night had worn a designer gown worth more than his monthly salary, standing in his kitchen in borrowed clothes, taking orders from a 7-year-old about pancake batter consistency. "Not too fast," Maya instructed. "The bubbles are important." "Right, bubbles, got it." Lily looked at Ethan over Maya's head, and he saw the ghost of a smile there. They made breakfast together, the three of them moving around the small kitchen in a dance that felt surprisingly natural. Maya chattered constantly about school and her friend Sophia and the volcano project that was now sitting on the dining room table waiting to be taken to class on Monday. Lily listened like Maya was telling her the secrets of the universe, asking questions and laughing at all the right moments. The pancakes turned out lopsided and slightly burned at the edges, but they tasted perfect. They ate at the kitchen table with syrup dripping everywhere and Maya telling knock-knock jokes that made no sense but were hilarious anyway. "Why did the chicken cross the playground?" Maya asked. "I don't know. Why?" Lily played along. "To get to the other slide!" Maya dissolved into giggles at her own joke. "That's terrible," Lily said, but she was laughing too. "Dad says all my jokes are terrible, but he still laughs." "That's because they're terrible in a good way," Ethan said, reaching over to wipe syrup off Maya's chin. After breakfast, Maya disappeared upstairs to get dressed, leaving Ethan and Lily alone in the kitchen with a sink full of dishes and the remains of their meal. "She's wonderful," Lily said quietly. "You're raising a really wonderful kid." "She has her moments. Last week, she put googly eyes on everything in the refrigerator because she thought the vegetables looked lonely. That's genius. That's chaos. But Ethan was smiling. Look, about last night, I'm sorry. Lily started loading plates into the sink. I'm so sorry for dragging you into that mess, for exploding in front of everyone, for showing up here and imposing on your Sunday. You didn't drag me anywhere. I chose to be there. You chose to help a stranger who was crying in a break room. You didn't choose to get insulted by my father or to have me fall apart in your guest room or to have your morning hijacked by my disaster of a life. Lily, stop. Ethan turned her to face him. You're not a disaster. You had the courage to walk away from something that was hurting you. That's not disaster. That's survival. It doesn't feel like courage. It feels like I just burned down everything I've ever known. Maybe it needed burning. She looked at him, really looked at him, and Ethan saw the fear there beneath the bravado. What do I do now? Now you figure out what you actually want, not what they want, not what you think you should want, what you want. I don't even know where to start. Start here. Start now. He handed her a dish towel. Help me clean up. Spend some time not thinking about it, and then we'll figure out the next step. They washed dishes in comfortable silence, the kitchen window showing a world still covered in yesterday's snow. Outside, neighbors were shoveling driveways and kids were building snowmen, normal Sunday morning things that felt impossibly distant from the chaos of the night before. Maya came back downstairs dressed in mismatched clothes, purple pants, orange shirt, green socks, and announced that she was going to Sophia's house to play. Did Sophia's mom actually invite you? Ethan asked. I'm going to call and ask if I can be invited. That's not how invitations work. It is if you're persistent. Maya grabbed the phone and disappeared into the living room. Lily laughed quietly. Does she always know exactly what she wants? Since birth, Sarah used to say Maya came out demanding things in complete sentences. Your wife sounds like she was amazing. She was. She really was. Ethan dried the last plate and set it in the cabinet. She would have liked you, I think. She always rooted for people who were trying to be brave. I don't feel brave. Neither did she. But she did it anyway. Maya returned triumphant. Sophia's mom says I can come over. Can you drive me? Let me get my keys. Can Lily come? Both adults froze. Maya looked between them, innocent and hopeful. I should probably get home, Lily said quickly. Figure out my situation. But you don't have a car here, Maya pointed out with relentless 7-year-old logic. So you have to come with us anyway, and Sophia's house is really close. You'll like Sophia. She's weird, but in a good way. Ethan looked at Lily, asking the question silently. She hesitated, then nodded. Okay, I'll come. But then I really do need to figure out what's next. They piled into Ethan's car, Maya in the back seat chattering about Sophia's new hamster and the fort they were going to build. The drive to Sophia's house took less than 10 minutes, through neighborhoods that looked just like Ethan's, modest houses with chain-link fences and cars that had seen better days. Sophia's mom, Rachel, met them at the door with a knowing smile. She was around Ethan's age, divorced with 2 kids, and had been trying to set Ethan up with various single friends for the past year. Well, well, Rachel said, taking in Lily. And who's this? Lily, a friend from work. Uh-huh. A friend. Ooh, Rachel's smile widened. Nice to meet you, Lily. Maya, Sophia's in the basement. Try not to destroy anything. Maya disappeared in a flash of mismatched clothes, and Rachel turned her attention back to them. So, work friend. Want to come in for coffee? We can't stay, Ethan said quickly. Oh, come on. I want to hear all about how you met. Rachel was already heading inside, leaving them no choice but to follow. Her kitchen was warm and cluttered, covered in drawings and homework papers and the general chaos of active parenting. She poured 3 cups of coffee and settled in at the table like she was preparing for a long story. So, Rachel said, looking at Lily, Ethan never brings anyone around. You must be special. It's not like that, Lily said. We really are just friends. Friends who spend Sunday morning together after he goes to a fancy party in a tuxedo. Rachel raised her eyebrows. Honey, I've been divorced 3 years. I know what just friends looks like, and this ain't it. Rachel, Ethan warned. What? I'm just saying what everyone else is thinking. You've been alone since Sarah died. It's nice to see you with someone. It's complicated, Lily said softly. Life's complicated. Love's complicated. Doesn't mean it's not worth it. Rachel took a sip of her coffee. Look, I don't know your story and I'm not asking. But what I do know is that Ethan Brooks is one of the good ones. He's been through hell, and he's still here, still showing up, still being a good dad. If you've got him in your life, even just as a friend, you're lucky. I know, Lily said. I'm starting to realize that. They stayed for another 20 minutes, Rachel telling stories about neighborhood drama and the PTA meeting that had devolved into chaos over whether to allow cupcakes at school parties. It was normal and mundane and exactly what Lily seemed to need, a window into a world where problems were small and manageable. When they finally left, Maya opted to stay for a few more hours, which meant Ethan and Lily drove back to his house alone. The silence in the car was heavier now, weighted with everything they weren't saying. Rachel's nice, Lily said finally. She's pushy, but she means well. She's right, though, about you being one of the good ones. I'm just a guy trying not to screw up his kid. You're more than that. You have to know that. Lily looked out the window at the passing houses. Can I ask you something? Sure. Do you ever regret it? Choosing to be a single parent? Choosing this life over something easier? Ethan thought about it, really thought about it. No, not for a second. Is it hard? Yeah. Am I tired all the time? Absolutely. But Maya is the best thing I've ever done, the best thing Sarah and I did together. I wouldn't trade that for anything. Even for a different life? One where you had more money or more freedom, or money doesn't matter if you're empty. Freedom doesn't matter if you have nothing worth being free for. He pulled into his driveway and cut the engine. My life isn't glamorous. I drive a 12-year-old car, and my house needs a new roof, and half the time I'm eating leftover mac and cheese for dinner. But it's real. And it's mine. And it means something. Lily was quiet for a long moment. I don't think my life means anything. I don't think it ever has. Then change it. It's not that simple. Sure it is. Quit your job if you hate it. Cut ties with your family if they're toxic. Figure out what makes you happy and do that instead. He looked at her. I know you're scared, but staying in something that's killing you because you're scared of the alternative, that's not living. That's just dying slowly. You make it sound easy. It's not easy, it's terrifying, but it's worth it. They went inside, the house quiet without Maya's energy filling it. Lily stood in the living room, looking at the photos on the wall, Maya at various ages, Sarah's smiling face frozen in time, moments captured and preserved. She was beautiful, Lily said, looking at a picture of Sarah holding newborn Maya. She was, inside and out. Do you still miss her? Every day, but it's different now, less sharp, more like an ache than a wound. Ethan sat down on the couch. The first year was hell. I barely functioned. Mrs. Chen basically raised Maya while I fell apart. But eventually, you learn to carry it. The grief becomes part of you instead of consuming you. How did you do it? Keep going? Because I had to. Because Maya needed me. He paused. And because Sarah would have kicked my ass if I gave up. Lily laughed, but it came out shaky. She sat down next to him, closer than necessary. I need to tell you something. Okay. Last night wasn't just about avoiding my family. I mean, it was, but it was more than that. She took a breath. 3 years ago, I was engaged. His name was David. We'd been together since college. He was everything my parents wanted. Right family, right job, right everything. And I thought I loved him. What happened? I found out he'd been cheating on me for most of our relationship, with multiple people. Some of them were my friends. Her voice was flat, emotionless. When I confronted him, he told me it was my fault, that I was too needy, too emotional, not sophisticated enough. My family believed him. They said I must have done something to drive him away. That's insane. That's my family. So I broke off the engagement, lost most of my friends, and spent the next 3 years trying to prove I wasn't the problem, trying to be perfect enough that no one could ever say I drove someone away again. She looked at him, and then last month I saw him at a restaurant with his new fiancée, who used to be my best friend from childhood. The same one Marcus was sleeping with. Yeah, Apparently, after David and I broke up, she set her sights on Marcus, who, for the record, my family still thinks I should have forgiven and taken back. Ethan felt something hot and protective surge through his chest. Your family is toxic. I know. I've known for a while. But admitting it means admitting that everything I've built my life around is a lie. That the people who were supposed to love me most have been hurting me worst. She wiped at her eyes. When I saw you in that break room, when you didn't judge me or tell me to pull myself together or act like my pain was inconvenient, it broke something open. Made me realize I've been surrounding myself with people who don't actually care about me. So you asked a stranger to be your fake boyfriend. I asked someone who seemed kind. Someone who seemed real. She turned to face him. And you showed up. You actually showed up. You defended me. You made my father look like the bully he is, and then you brought me here and gave me pancakes and let your daughter tell me terrible jokes. Do you have any idea how rare that is? It's just basic human decency. It's not. Trust me. It's not. She was crying now, quietly. And I don't know what to do with it. I don't know how to be around someone who's actually kind without waiting for the other shoe to drop. Ethan reached out and took her hand. There's no other shoe. I'm not going to hurt you or use you or make you feel small. That's not who I am. But we barely know each other. So we'll get to know each other, without the lies this time, without pretending. He squeezed her hand. What do you say? Want to try being actual friends instead of fake ones? She looked at him for a long moment, searching his face for something. Whatever she found must have satisfied her because she nodded. Yes, I'd like that. I'd really like that. They sat there on the couch as afternoon light filtered through the windows, talking about everything and nothing. Lily told him about her job in marketing, about campaigns she'd worked on and projects she was proud of. She told him about her younger brother who lived in California and who she barely talked to anymore, about dreams she'd had as a kid that she'd let die somewhere along the way. Ethan told her about Sarah, about how they'd met in college and how she'd been diagnosed 6 months after Maya was born. He told her about the terrible year of treatment and false hope and eventual acceptance. He told her about learning to be both mother and father, about the nights he'd cried in the shower so Maya wouldn't hear, about the small victories that kept him going. Hours passed without them noticing. The light changed from afternoon to evening, shadows lengthening across the floor. Ethan's phone buzzed with a text from Rachel saying Maya had invited herself to stay for dinner, and was that okay? That kid, Ethan muttered, but he was smiling as he typed back that, yes, it was fine. You should go get her, Lily said. I should probably figure out my next move anyway. Where will you go? I don't know. Back to my apartment, I guess. Face whatever messages are waiting from my family. She stood up, stretching. Thank you for everything. For last night and this morning, and for listening to me unload 3 years of emotional baggage. Anytime. Ethan stood too. And I mean that. You need someone to talk to. You call me. Day or night. Doesn't matter. You barely know me. I know enough. I know you're brave and honest and trying to figure out how to live your life on your own terms. That's worth being there for. She looked at him, and something passed between them. Something neither of them was ready to name, but both of them felt. Then she stepped forward and hugged him, quick and fierce. Thank you, she whispered against his shoulder. You're welcome. She pulled back, wiping her eyes again. I should go. Call a car or something. I'll drive you, after we pick up Maya. You don't have to. I know. I want to. So they drove back to Rachel's house, where Maya emerged covered in paint and glitter, talking a mile a minute about the masterpiece she and Sophia had created. Rachel gave Ethan a knowing look and mouthed, "She's good for you," when Lily wasn't looking. Then they drove to Lily's apartment building, a modern high-rise downtown that was a far cry from Ethan's neighborhood. Lily looked up at it like it was a prison. You okay? Ethan asked. No, but I will be. She unbuckled her seatbelt. Can I take you up on that offer? To call you if I need to talk? Absolutely. Even if it's late, or if it's stupid, especially if it's stupid, those are the best conversations. She smiled, and it reached her eyes this time. Bye, Maya. Thanks for the pancakes. Bye, Lily. Come back soon. I'd like that. She got out of the car and walked into the building without looking back. Ethan watched her go, feeling like something had shifted but unable to articulate exactly what. Dad? Maya said from the back seat. Yeah, baby? I like her. She's nice. And she didn't make fun of my jokes even though they're bad. Your jokes are perfect. They're bad, but they're mine. Maya was quiet for a moment. Is she going to be around more? I don't know. Maybe. Would that be okay? Yeah, I think Mom would like her too. Ethan's throat tightened. You think so? Mom liked everyone who was nice. Lily's nice. So yeah. Maya yawned. Can we get pizza for dinner? Sure, baby. Pizza sounds perfect. They drove home through streets slick with melting snow, the city lights beginning to flicker on as evening settled in. Ethan's phone buzzed once, a text from Lily. Thank you for seeing me. Really seeing me. I didn't know how much I needed that, he typed back while sitting at a red light. Any time. And I mean it. Her response came quickly. I know you do. That's what makes it real. Later that night, after pizza and a movie and getting Maya into bed, Ethan sat in his room and thought about the past 48 hours, about Lily crying in the break room, about the party and the confrontation with her father, about pancakes and terrible jokes and conversations that felt like coming home. His phone rang at 11:30. Lily's name flashed on the screen. Hey, he answered. You okay? My mother called. Her voice was tight. She said, if I don't apologize to my father and Andrew Wentworth by tomorrow, I'm cut off. No more trust fund. No more family support. No more anything. What did you say? I told her to do it, to cut me off. That I don't want their money if it comes with strings attached to who I'm supposed to be. She laughed, but it sounded broken. So I guess I'm officially disowned. How do you feel? Terrified, relieved, like I just jumped off a cliff and I don't know if there's water at the bottom. She paused. Is it crazy that part of me is happy? No. That's the part that knows you did the right thing. I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know how to be me without them telling me who to be. Then we'll figure it out together, Ethan said. One day at a time. One decision at a time. We? If you want. I told you, you need someone. I'm here. She was quiet for so long Ethan thought the call had dropped. Then she said very softly, No one's ever said that to me before. Not without wanting something in return. I don't want anything except for you to be okay. Why? Why do you care so much about someone you barely know? Because everyone deserves someone who cares. And because I remember what it's like to be scared and alone and not sure you're going to survive. He paused. You will, though. Survive. You're stronger than you think. How can you possibly know that? Because you're still here. After everything, you're still here. That takes strength. They talked until past midnight, about nothing and everything, until Lily's voice grew heavy with exhaustion and she finally said she should try to sleep. After they hung up, Ethan lay in bed thinking about choices and consequences and the strange way life brought people together. His phone buzzed one last time. A text from Lily. Good night, Ethan. Thank you for being real. He smiled in the darkness and typed back. Good night, Lily. Thank you for letting me be. Outside, snow began to fall again, soft and silent, covering the world in white. Inside, Ethan closed his eyes and fell asleep thinking about brave women and terrible jokes, and the possibility that maybe, just maybe, something real was beginning to take shape from the ruins of something fake. Part 1. Lưu ý, viết 6.000 đến 6.500 từ liên kết liền mạch với các phần trước trong câu chuyện và hối thoại tạo thành một câu chuyện liền mạch khi ghép lại. Mỗi phần liền mạch với phần trước không giới thiệu lại câu chuyện ở đầu phần mới, liên kết các phần của câu chuyện một cách liền mạch, sử dụng câu chuyện tiếp giữa các phần. Duy trì chủ đề, tránh ngắt quãng đột ngột, không sử dụng gạch đầu dòng hoặc tiêu đề phụ. Phong cách kể chuyện Mỹ, Hoa Kỳ, giống văn giàu cảm xúc. Kể theo ngôi thứ ba, giữ đồ kịch tính không viết lằn màn. Nhân vật không hoàn hảo, hội thoại tự nhiên, tránh ngôn ngữ văn chương sáo rơi và cụm từ AI điển hình. Viết như nhà văn chuyên nghiệp, không như AI cố gắng nghe sàng. Có yếu tố con người, cấm miêu tả qua mượt mà và hoàn hảo. Kết thúc phần không giới thiệu phần sau, câu chuyện không nhắc đến Chúa. Lưu ý trả lời trong mục tin nhắn không nhảy sang document, chi dẫn bắt buộc, không được xuất hiện trong nội dung truyền. Đây là một câu chuyện điện ảnh hoàn toàn hư cấu được tạo ra chỉ nhằm mục đích giải trí, không đề cập hay ngụ ý rằng nó dựa trên sự kiện có thật, người thật hoặc câu chuyện có thật, không sử dụng các cụm từ như dựa trên một câu chuyện có thật, theo ghi chép hoặc bất cứ điều gì tương tự. Tất cả các nhân vật, địa điểm, tổ chức và sự kiện phải hoàn toàn hư cấu. Show Marv 1528, Part 4. The week that followed felt like living in two different worlds simultaneously. At work, Ethan moved through his usual routines, spreadsheets, meetings, coffee that tasted like burnt cardboard. But everything had a strange overlay now, like watching his life through someone else's eyes. Lily was 2 floors down, going through her own version of normal, while her entire world crumbled around her. They texted throughout the day. Small things, mostly. Lily would send him pictures of terrible stock photos from her marketing campaigns with commentary that made him laugh out loud in his cubicle. He'd send her photos of Maya's latest artwork, a drawing of the 3 of them as stick figures that Lily had saved to her phone. Neither of them acknowledged what they were doing, this building of something neither could name. On Tuesday, Lily's brother called. She texted Ethan from the bathroom where she'd hidden to take it. He says I'm being selfish, that I'm tearing the family apart over nothing. Ethan's jaw clenched as he typed back. It's not nothing, and you're not tearing anything apart. They did that themselves. Her response came 5 minutes later. He wants to meet for lunch tomorrow. Should I go? Do you want to? I don't know. Part of me hopes he'll understand. Part of me knows he won't. Then go. But know that whatever he says, it doesn't change the fact that you did the right thing. The next day, Lily met her brother at a cafe downtown. She texted Ethan afterward from her car, and he could feel the devastation in her words even through the screen. He called me ungrateful, said I was throwing away everything they'd built for me because I wanted to play victim, that David was right about me being too emotional. Where are you? Parking garage. 3rd and Main. Stay there. I'm coming. Ethan told his boss he had a family emergency and left without waiting for approval. The drive took 20 minutes through lunch traffic, and the entire time his hands gripped the steering wheel too tight, anger simmering just beneath his skin. Not at Lily. At everyone who'd spent years convincing her that her pain didn't matter. He found her sitting in her car on the 4th level of the garage, staring straight ahead with tears streaming down her face. She didn't seem to notice him until he knocked on the window. Hey, he said when she opened the door. Come on, get out. I'm fine. You're not fine, and you don't have to be fine right now. He held out his hand. Come on. She took it and let him pull her out of the car. Then, because she looked like she was about to shatter, he wrapped his arms around her and let her cry into his shoulder. Her whole body shook with it, 3 years of holding everything together finally breaking apart. I thought he'd understand, she said between sobs. He's my brother. I thought I know. He looked at me like I was crazy, like I'd made everything up, like none of it was real. It was real. It is real. Ethan held her tighter. What they did to you was real, and your pain is real, and you have every right to be angry. But what if they're right? What if I am just being dramatic? What if... Stop! He pulled back enough to look at her. You're not dramatic. You're not ungrateful. You're not any of the things they're trying to make you believe. You're someone who's been hurt, and you're trying to heal, and they can't handle that because it means admitting they were part of the problem. She stared at him, her eyes red and swollen. How do you always know what to say? I don't. I'm just saying what I think is true. He brushed a tear from her cheek with his thumb. Have you eaten? No? Neither have I. Let's get out of here. They ended up at a diner 3 blocks away, the kind of place with cracked vinyl booths and laminated menus and coffee that actually tasted good. Lily ordered pancakes, chocolate chip like Maya makes, and Ethan got a burger that was probably terrible for him but tasted perfect. I can't go back to my apartment, Lily said halfway through her meal. My mother's been calling non-stop. She left 17 voicemails yesterday. 17. Don't listen to them. I did. All of them. She pushed her pancakes around with her fork. She cried in 3 of them, said I was breaking her heart, that I was choosing strangers over family. She's manipulating you. I know, but it's still working. She looked up at him. Is it wrong that I want them to hurt the way I hurt? That I want them to feel a fraction of what they've put me through? No, that's human. It feels cruel. It's not cruel to want acknowledgement of your pain. It's not cruel to want them to understand what they did. Ethan reached across the table and took her hand. But you can't make them feel something they're not capable of feeling. You can't make them understand if they don't want to. So what do? You let them go. You build a life that's yours. You surround yourself with people who actually see you. People like you? If you want. She squeezed his hand. I do want. That's the scary part. I've known you less than a week, and I already trust you more than people I've known my entire life. Maybe that says more about them than about us. Maybe. She took a bite of pancake. These aren't as good as the ones we made. Maya's recipe is better. Maya's recipe is pure chaos and chocolate chips. Exactly. Better. They stayed at the diner for 2 hours, talking and not talking, existing in a space where the outside world couldn't reach them. When they finally left, the sun was starting to set, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. I should get back to work, Ethan said, though he didn't move toward his car. You should. Lily didn't move either. Thank you for coming, for knowing I needed someone. Anytime. You keep saying that. I keep meaning it. She stood on her toes and kissed his cheek, quick and soft. You're a good man, Ethan Brooks. Then she was gone, heading back to her car, leaving Ethan standing on the sidewalk with his hand pressed to where her lips had been and his heart doing something complicated in his chest. His phone rang as he drove back to work. Mrs. Chen. Maya is sick, she said without preamble. Fever, throwing up. You need to come get her from school. The world snapped back into focus. I'm on my way. He called his boss to explain, picked up Maya from the school nurse's office, and spent the rest of the afternoon holding a bucket while his daughter threw up everything she'd eaten in the past 24 hours. By evening, her fever had spiked to 102, and she was shaking with chills despite being wrapped in 3 blankets. I don't feel good, Dad, she whimpered. I know, baby, I know. He pressed a cool washcloth to her forehead. The medicine should kick in soon. My stomach hurts. I know. I want Mom. The words punched through him like a bullet. Maya rarely asked for Sarah anymore. She'd been so young when Sarah died that her memories were more feeling than fact. But when she was sick or scared or hurt, the ghost of Sarah came back, and Maya remembered wanting someone who couldn't be there. I know you do, baby. I wish she was here too. Maya started crying, which made her feel worse, which made her cry harder. Ethan held her and murmured nonsense words and felt completely helpless. This was the part of single parenting that never got easier. The moments when one parent wasn't enough, when he couldn't be both mother and father no matter how hard he tried. His phone buzzed. A text from Lily. How's your day going? He looked at Maya crying in his arms, at the pile of dirty laundry in the corner, at the dishes in the sink he hadn't had time to wash. He typed back with one hand. Maya's sick. Fever and stomach bug. It's rough. Her response came immediately. Do you need anything just for this day to be over? 3 dots appeared and disappeared several times. Then, I'm coming over. You don't have to do that, I know, but I want to. Give me 30 minutes. Lily showed up 40 minutes later with bags from the pharmacy and the grocery store. She knocked softly, and when Ethan opened the door, she took one look at his exhausted face and just started moving. Where's Maya? Couch. She finally fell asleep. Good. You look terrible. Thanks. When did you last eat? I don't know. Lunch? That was 6 hours ago. She started unpacking bags in the kitchen. I brought soup, real soup, not canned, and crackers and ginger ale and children's Tylenol in case you were running low. Also cleaning supplies because sick kid means laundry, and I figured you could use help. Ethan stared at her. Why are you doing this? Because you showed up for me when I needed it. Now I'm showing up for you. She pulled out a container of soup. Eat this, then go take a shower. You smell like sick kid. I smell like my sick kid. Semantics. Shower. Now. He was too tired to argue. The hot water felt like salvation, washing away the stress of the day and the lingering smell of vomit. When he came back downstairs 20 minutes later, clean and dressed in sweatpants and an old t-shirt, Lily had transformed his kitchen. The dishes were done. The laundry was running. Maya was still asleep on the couch, but now she had a fresh blanket and a bucket positioned perfectly beside her. And Lily was standing at his stove, stirring soup and humming something under her breath. "You didn't have to do all this," Ethan said. "I know, but I wanted to. Besides, it's nice. Doing something useful, something that matters." She ladled soup into a bowl and handed it to him. "Eat. You're useless to Maya if you collapse from exhaustion." The soup was incredible. Homemade chicken noodle with actual vegetables and herbs. Ethan hadn't realized how hungry he was until the first bite hit his tongue. "Where did you learn to cook like this?" "My grandmother. Before she died, she used to make this every time I was sick. Said it was the only thing that worked." Lily sat down across from him. "My mother never learned the recipe. Said it was beneath her to spend that much time in the kitchen. But I paid attention, wrote down every step." "I'm glad you did. This is amazing. It's just soup." "It's the best soup I've ever had." They ate in comfortable silence, the only sounds the washing machine running and Maya's soft breathing from the couch. It felt domestic in a way that should have been weird, but instead felt right, like Lily had always been here, always been part of this. "Can I ask you something?" Lily said after a while. "Sure. What was Sarah like?" "Really like. Not the sanitized version people tell at funerals." Ethan smiled despite himself. "She was chaotic, creative. She could never find her keys and she burned dinner at least twice a week. She sang off key and laughed too loud and had opinions about everything." "She sounds perfect." "She wasn't. She was stubborn and impulsive, and sometimes she made decisions without thinking them through. But she was brave and kind, and she loved so fiercely it was almost scary." He looked at Lily. "I think she would have liked you. You remind me of her in some ways." "How?" "You're both fighters, both willing to stand up for what you believe in even when it's hard. Both stronger than you think you are." Lily's eyes filled with tears. "I don't feel strong. I feel like I'm barely holding it together." "That's what strength looks like. Not the absence of fear, but moving forward despite it." Maya stirred on the couch, making a small sound of distress. Ethan started to get up, but Lily was already moving. She knelt beside the couch, pressing her hand to Maya's forehead. "Hey, sweetie, how are you feeling?" Maya's eyes opened, unfocused and glassy. "Lily?" "Yeah, it's me. Your dad said you're not feeling well." "My tummy hurts." "I know, but I brought special soup, the kind my grandma used to make when I was sick. Think you could try a little bit?" Maya nodded weakly. Lily helped her sit up, arranged pillows behind her, and brought over a small bowl of broth. She fed Maya tiny spoonfuls, patient and gentle, talking quietly about nothing in particular. Maya managed 4 spoonfuls before shaking her head. "That's good, baby," Ethan said. "That's really good." "I'm tired." "Then sleep. Lily and I will be right here." Maya's eyes were already closing. Within minutes, she was asleep again, curled under her blanket like a small wounded animal. Lily stayed beside the couch, watching her with something tender in her expression. "She's so little," Lily said softly. "I forget how little 7 is. She seems older most of the time, too old. She's had to grow up fast, losing her mom that young." Lily looked at him. "You've done an incredible job with her, you know that?" "I'm just trying not to screw up." "You're doing more than that? You're raising someone kind and curious and brave. That doesn't happen by accident." They moved to the kitchen to give Maya space to sleep. Lily insisted on cleaning up from dinner while Ethan switched over the laundry. It was mundane, ordinary, the kind of thing couples did together without thinking. But they weren't a couple. They were just 2 people helping each other survive. Except it didn't feel like just survival anymore. "I should go," Lily said around 9, though she made no move toward the door. "Let you get some rest." "You could stay, in the guest room again, if you want." "Are you sure?" "Yeah, besides, my apartment is still full of voicemails from people you don't want to talk to." She smiled. "Good point." They stayed up talking until past midnight, their voices low so they wouldn't wake Maya. Lily told him about her job, about campaigns she was working on, and office politics that made his accounting drama seem tame. Ethan told her about Maya's school play coming up, about how she'd been cast as a tree and was taking the role very seriously. A tree? Lily laughed. That's amazing. She's been practicing her tree stance all week, says it's method acting. 7-year-old method acting. That's commitment. Around 1 in the morning, Ethan checked on Maya and found her fever had broken. She was sleeping peacefully, color returning to her cheeks. Relief flooded through him, sharp and overwhelming. She's okay, he said when he came back downstairs. She's going to be okay. Of course she is. She's got you. Something in Lily's voice made Ethan look at her closely. She was standing by the window, backlit by streetlights, and she looked beautiful and sad and lost all at once. Lily, what's wrong? Nothing. Everything. She wrapped her arms around herself. I got an email from my father's lawyer today. They're officially cutting me off. No more trust fund, no more health insurance through them. Nothing. When? End of the month. 3 weeks from now. She laughed, but there was no humor in it. I always knew it was a possibility, but seeing it in writing, it's real now. I'm really on my own. Can you afford your apartment without the trust fund? For maybe 2 months if I'm careful. After that, she shrugged. I don't know. Find a roommate, move somewhere cheaper, figure out how to live on my actual salary instead of family money. That's terrifying. It's liberating, terrifying, but liberating. She turned to face him. I've never had to budget before, never had to worry about whether I could afford something. It was always just there. Now I get to find out who I am without that safety net. You're going to be okay. How can you be so sure? Because I've seen you survive worse, and because you're not doing it alone. He crossed to her, taking her hands in his. Whatever you need, help finding a new place, someone to review your budget, whatever. I'm here. We'll figure it out together. Why? Her voice broke on the word. Why do you care so much? What are you getting out of this? Nothing. Everything. I don't know. Ethan squeezed her hands. Maybe I'm tired of being alone. Maybe I see something in you that I recognize. Maybe I just think you deserve someone in your corner for once. It's more than that. Yeah, it is. They stood there in his kitchen, hands joined, something unspoken crackling in the air between them. Ethan thought about kissing her, about closing the distance and finding out what her lips tasted like, about making this thing between them real instead of theoretical. But Maya was 20 feet away sleeping on the couch, and Lily was vulnerable right now, and Ethan didn't want to be another person who took advantage of her when she was low. I should let you get some sleep, he said, forcing himself to step back. Big day tomorrow. What's tomorrow? Maya has a doctor's appointment at 10. I need to make sure she's actually okay and not just faking recovery to avoid more medicine. Lily smiled. Kids are good at that. She's excellent at it. Last time she convinced me she was fine and 2 hours later threw up in the car. Yikes. Cost me $200 to get the seats cleaned. He walked her to the guest room. Seriously though, thank you for coming over, for helping, for just being here. Thank you for letting me, for giving me a place to be that doesn't feel like I'm suffocating. They stood in the hallway, close but not touching, both of them feeling the weight of everything unsaid. Good night, Ethan. Good night, Lily. He forced himself to walk to his own room, to close the door, to lie in bed and stare at the ceiling instead of walking across the hall and telling her everything he was feeling. Because what he was feeling was too big, too fast, too real for someone he'd known less than a week. His phone lit up with the text. Lily, I can't sleep. Ethan, me neither. Lily, want to talk? Ethan, always. They texted for another hour, stupid things mostly, favorite movies and worst dates and embarrassing stories from their teenage years, normal getting to know you stuff that felt abnormal because of the intensity underneath it. Finally, around 3 in the morning, Lily texted, I'm glad I asked you to that party, even though it turned into a disaster. Ethan, me too. Lily, really? Ethan, really? Best disaster I've ever been part of. Lily, you're weird. Ethan, you're weirder. Lily, probably. Good night for real this time. Ethan, good night for real. He set his phone down and closed his eyes, but sleep didn't come easily. His mind was too full of Lily, her laugh, her tears, the way she'd knelt beside Maya's couch and fed her soup with infinite patience, the way she fit into his life like a missing piece he hadn't known was missing. This was dangerous. He knew it was dangerous. Getting attached to someone so quickly, letting someone into Maya's life before knowing if they'd stay, risking his heart when it had barely healed from the last time it broke. But when morning came and he found Lily in the kitchen making pancakes, chocolate chip, Maya's way, with his daughter sitting at the table giving very specific instructions about bubble formation, Ethan realized something. Maybe dangerous was worth it. Maybe the risk of getting hurt was worth the possibility of not being alone anymore. Maybe letting someone in was exactly what both he and Lily needed to finally start living again instead of just surviving. "Dad," Maya called when she saw him. "Lily's making breakfast, and she's doing it right." "High praise," Ethan said, catching Lily's eye across the kitchen. She smiled at him, and in that smile was everything they hadn't said. All the fear and hope and tentative belief that maybe, just maybe, they were building something real out of the wreckage of something fake. "Come on," Lily said, flipping a pancake. "Sit down. Let me take care of you for once." So he did. He sat at his kitchen table with his daughter and this woman who'd appeared in his life like a storm, and he ate chocolate chip pancakes and listened to terrible jokes and let himself feel something he hadn't felt in 3 years. Happy. The word settled into his chest, warm and terrifying and absolutely real. And when Lily reached across the table to steal a piece of his pancake, her fingers brushing his, Ethan didn't pull away. He leaned in. Part 5. Louis. Viết 6.000 từ liên kết liên mạch với các phần trước trong câu chuyện, pha hối thoại tạo thành một câu liên mạch khi ghép lại. Mỗi phần liên mạch với phần trước không giới thiệu lại câu chuyện ở đầu phần mới. Liên kết các phần của câu chuyện một cách liền mạch. Sử dụng câu chuyện tiếp giữa các phần. Duy trì chủ đề, tránh ngắt quãng đột ngột, không sử dụng gạch đầu dòng hoặc tiêu đề phủ, phong cách kể chuyện Mỹ, Hoa Kỳ, giống văn giàu cảm xúc. Kể theo ngôi thứ 3, giữ đồ kịch tính không viết lan man, có quan điểm cá nhân, thông điệp, bài học, góc nhìn con người. Nhân vật không hoàn hảo, hội thoại tự nhiên, tránh ngôn ngữ văn chương sáo rơi và cụm từ AI điển hình. Viết như nhà văn chuyên nghiệp, không như AI cố gắng nghe sảng. Có yếu tố con người, cầm miêu tả qua mướt mà và hoàn hảo. Phần 5 giải quyết hết vấn đề và kết thúc trọn vẹn câu chuyện. Câu chuyện không nhắc đến Chúa, lưu ý trả lời trong mục tin nhắn không nhảy sang document, chi dần bắt buộc, không được xuất hiện trong nội dung truyền. Đây là một câu chuyện điện ảnh hoàn toàn hư cấu được tạo ra chỉ nhằm mục đích giải trí. Không đề cập hay ngụ ý rằng nó dựa trên sự kiện có thật, người thật hoặc câu chuyện có thật. Không sử dụng các cụm từ như dựa trên một câu chuyện có thật, theo ghi chép hoặc bất cứ điều gì tương tự. Tất cả các nhân vật, địa điểm, tổ chức và sự kiện phải hoàn toàn hư cấu. Showmore 15 giờ 33 phút, Part 5. The shift happened so gradually that neither of them could pinpoint exactly when things changed. Maybe it was that morning with pancakes, or maybe it was the 100 small moments that followed, Lily showing up at Maya's school play and cheering louder than anyone else when Maya stood perfectly still as tree number 3, Ethan helping Lily move into a smaller apartment across town that she could actually afford on her salary, the three of them falling into a rhythm that felt less like trying and more like breathing. 2 weeks after the party, Lily's things were scattered across Ethan's life in ways that should have felt intrusive but didn't. Her jacket on the hook by the door, her coffee mug in his cabinet, her laugh-filling spaces that had been quiet for too long. They hadn't defined what they were doing, hadn't had the conversation about labels or expectations or where this was going. They were just existing together, and somehow that was enough. Until it wasn't. The breaking point came on a Tuesday evening. Ethan was making dinner, spaghetti, because it was one of 3 things he could cook without setting off the smoke alarm. When his phone rang. Unknown number. He almost didn't answer, but something made him pick up. "Is this Ethan Brooks?" A woman's voice, cold and professional. "Yes." "Who's this?" "My name is Catherine Reynolds. I'm an attorney representing Richard Hart." Ethan's blood went cold. He turned off the stove and walked into the living room where Maya was doing homework and Lily was helping her with fractions. "What can I do for you, Ms. Reynolds?" "I'm calling to inform you that my client intends to pursue legal action regarding defamatory statements made at a private event on..." He's suing me? Lily's head snapped up. Maya looked between them, sensing trouble. My client believes your conduct and statements cause significant damage to his reputation and business relationships. We're prepared to file suit unless you're willing to meet certain conditions. What conditions? A public apology. A written statement acknowledging that your characterizations of Mr. Hart were false, and an agreement to cease all contact with his daughter. The world tilted sideways. Excuse me? My client believes you're a negative influence on Lily. He's prepared to take legal action to protect his family. His family? Ethan laughed, but it came out harsh. His family that cut her off? That told her she was worthless unless she lived by their rules? Mr. Brooks, I'm simply conveying my client's position. You have 48 hours to respond before we file. I'd suggest you consult an attorney. The line went dead. Ethan stood there holding his phone, rage and disbelief warring in his chest. Lily was already standing, her face pale. What did they say? Your father is threatening to sue me for defamation unless I apologize and stop seeing you. He can't do that. Apparently he can, or at least he's going to try. Dad? Maya's small voice cut through the tension. What's happening? Nothing, baby. Adult stuff. Why don't you finish your homework upstairs? But, now, please. Maya gathered her books with unusual quiet and disappeared upstairs. The moment her door closed, Lily exploded. I'm calling him. Right now. This is insane. Don't. Ethan caught her wrist. That's what he wants. He wants you scared and desperate and running back to him. But he's threatening to sue you because of me. Because he's a bully who's lost control of his daughter and can't handle it. Ethan pulled her close. I'm not apologizing. I'm not stopping seeing you, and I'm definitely not letting him intimidate me into backing down. He'll ruin you. Legal fees alone could... I don't care. You have Maya to think about. You can't risk everything for me. Watch me. Lily pulled away, pacing his small living room like a caged animal. No, this is exactly what I was afraid of. I'm poison, Ethan. Everyone who gets close to me ends up hurt or disappointed or destroyed. First David, then Marcus, now you. Stop. He grabbed her shoulders, forcing her to look at him. David cheated because he's a cheater. Marcus was weak. And I'm not being destroyed. I'm being threatened by a man who thinks money and lawyers can control everyone. But he's wrong. You don't know my father. When he wants something, he gets it. He'll drag this out for years. He'll make your life hell. Then let him. I've been through hell before. I survived it. He cupped her face in his hands. I'm not leaving you. I'm not scared of him. And I'm definitely not apologizing for telling him the truth. Why? Her voice broke. Why would you risk everything for me? Because I love you. The words fell into the space between them like stones into water, creating ripples that spread and spread. Ethan hadn't planned to say it, hadn't even fully acknowledged it to himself until this moment. But standing here with Lily falling apart in his hands, it was the only truth that mattered. You can't, Lily whispered. We've only known each other 3 weeks. I know, it's crazy, it's too fast. It's all the things people say you shouldn't do. He smiled despite everything. But I'm saying it anyway. I love you. I love your terrible sense of humor and the way you burn toast, even though it's impossible to burn toast. I love how you listen to Maya like she's saying the most important things in the world. I love that you're brave enough to walk away from everything you knew to find out who you really are. Ethan, you don't have to say it back. I'm not expecting that. I just need you to know that whatever your father does, whatever threats he makes, I'm not going anywhere. You're stuck with me. Lily stared at him, tears streaming down her face. I love you too. I think I have since that first night when you showed up at that party and didn't run screaming. But Ethan, loving me comes with complications. My family, my past, all of it. I don't care about complications. I care about you. She kissed him then, hard and desperate, and Ethan kissed her back like his life depended on it. When they finally broke apart, both of them breathing hard, Lily pressed her forehead to his. What do we do? She asked. We fight. Together. They called an attorney the next morning, a friend of Mrs. Chen's nephew who specialized in frivolous lawsuits and had a reputation for making rich people nervous. Her name was Jennifer Park, and she listened to their story with increasing amusement. "So let me get this straight," she said, leaning back in her office chair. "A millionaire is threatening to sue you because you told him he was a bad father at his own party?" "That's the short version," Ethan said. "And you actually said those things." "Every word." "Were they true?" Ethan looked at Lily, who nodded. "Every word," he repeated. Jennifer grinned. "Then we're going to have fun with this. Truth is an absolute defense against defamation. If you can prove that what you said was accurate, and given that he immediately cut his daughter off financially, I'm guessing we can... Then he's got nothing. This is a SLAPP suit. Strategic lawsuit against public participation. It's designed to intimidate you into silence." "Will it work?" Lily asked quietly. "Not if you're willing to fight, but I need to be honest, it'll be expensive. He's got resources we don't. This could drag on for months." "How expensive?" Ethan's stomach was already sinking. 15 to 20,000 conservatively, maybe more if he really pushes it. The number hit like a physical blow. Ethan did quick math in his head, his savings, Maya's college fund that he'd been building since she was born, the emergency money he'd kept untouched since Sarah died. Even combining everything, he'd barely have enough. "I can't ask you to do this," Lily said immediately. "Not for me." "You're not asking. I'm choosing." Ethan, that's your daughter's future. You can't..." "My daughter's future includes her being raised by someone who stands up for what's right, who doesn't back down from bullies, who shows her that love is worth fighting for." He looked at Jennifer. "Do it. File whatever you need to file." Jennifer nodded. "I'll need retainer by Friday." They left the office in silence, both of them processing what they'd just committed to. Outside, snow had started falling again, dusting the city in white. Lily stopped on the sidewalk, pulling her coat tighter. "I have money saved," she said. "Not much, but some. I can help with the legal fees." "No." "Ethan, this is my fight. He threatened me. I'm handling it. It's my father, my mess. I should... We're doing this together or not at all." He took her hands. "No more you handling everything alone. No more me handling everything alone. We're a team now. That means we figure this out together." "I'm not used to teams." "Neither am I. We'll learn." That night, after Maya was in bed and the house was quiet, they sat at the kitchen table with Ethan's finances spread between them. Bank statements and bills and the college fund statement that made Ethan's chest tight every time he looked at it. "If we use the emergency fund and half the college money, we can cover the retainer and maybe the first few months," Ethan said, doing calculations on scratch paper. After that, we hope he gives up or we figure something else out. I can pick up freelance work. Some of the firms downtown need temporary help during tax season. I can look for a higher paying position. My current salary barely covers rent." They planned and plotted until past midnight, two people trying to build a strategy against someone with infinitely more resources. It should have felt hopeless. Instead, it felt like the first real thing either of them had done in years. The lawsuit was filed 3 days later. Richard Hart versus Ethan Brooks, claiming defamation and intentional infliction of emotional distress. The document was 12 pages of legal language that boiled down to one thing: shut up and go away, or I'll destroy you. Jennifer filed their response the same day. A motion to dismiss based on truth as a defense, plus a countersuit for abuse of process. It was aggressive and risky, but Jennifer believed in going on offense. "Make him defend himself," she explained. "Make him prove he's not what you said he is. Most bullies fold when you punch back." Lily's mother called that evening, her voice shaking with fury. "How dare you?" Victoria hissed into the phone. "How dare you drag our family through this? Your father is beside himself. The embarrassment, the scandal." "You mean the truth," Lily said calmly. She was on speaker, Ethan sitting beside her for support. "Ethan told the truth, and Dad can't handle it." The truth? The truth is that you've become involved with a nobody who's using you to get to your father's money." "Ethan doesn't want Dad's money. Neither do I anymore." "Then you're a fool, both of you. You'll lose everything, your reputation, your future, any hope of having a real life." "My real life started when I walked away from all of you," Lily said, and her voice was steady now, strong. "I have more now than I ever had in that house. I have people who actually care about me. who see me as a person instead of a pawn in someone else's game. You're throwing away your birthright for someone you barely know. I'm choosing myself for the first time in my life. If that means throwing away my birthright, then good riddance. Lily paused. And for the record, I know Ethan better after 3 weeks than I knew David after 4 years. Because Ethan actually shows up. He's actually honest. He's actually kind. All the things I thought I was supposed to value but never found in our family. Victoria was silent for a long moment. When she spoke again, her voice was different, softer, almost sad. You really believe that, don't you? I know it. Then I feel sorry for you. Because you're going to learn that kindness doesn't pay bills, love doesn't build security, and walking away from family means you're alone when everything falls apart. I'm not alone, Lily said. That's what you don't understand. I'm finally not alone. Victoria hung up without another word. Lily set down the phone, her hands shaking. That was my mother's version of concern. She thinks she's saving me. From what? Being happy? From making a mistake she can't fix. Lily leaned against him. She married my father because he was appropriate, safe, successful. She's been miserable for 30 years, but she has security, so she thinks she made the right choice. Did she? I don't know. Maybe for her she did. But I don't want to spend 30 years being miserable just to have security. I'd rather take my chances on something real. Even if it's hard? Especially if it's hard. Easy isn't always good. They held each other in the quiet kitchen, two people who'd found each other in the worst possible circumstances and somehow made it work. Outside, the city moved on without them. Millions of people living their lives, making their choices, building their own versions of happiness, or settling for security. The next few weeks were brutal. The lawsuit gained media attention. Millionaire sues daughter's boyfriend for defamation, and suddenly everyone had an opinion. Half the internet thought Ethan was a gold digger. The other half thought Richard Hart was a tyrant. Neither side knew the truth, but that didn't stop them from commenting. Maya heard about it at school when Sophia's older brother mentioned seeing Ethan's name in an article. She came home in tears, confused and scared. Are we in trouble? She asked, climbing into Ethan's lap. Is someone trying to hurt us? No, baby. Someone's just mad because I told the truth and they didn't like it. About what? About how parents should treat their kids. About how love is more important than money. But we don't have a lot of money. No, we don't. But we have a lot of love? Yeah, baby. We have so much love. Maya thought about this, her face scrunched in concentration. Then we're rich in the important way. Where did you learn that? Mom used to say it, before she got sick. She said we were rich in the important way. Ethan's throat closed. He'd forgotten Sarah used to say that, forgotten so many of her small wisdoms that Maya still carried. She was right, he managed. We are rich in the important way. And Lily makes us richer, Maya added matter-of-factly. Because more love. Yeah, more love. The preliminary hearing was set for a Thursday in March. Jennifer warned them it would be quick, just arguments about whether the case should proceed. But when they arrived at the courthouse, Richard Hart was there with his legal team, 3 attorneys in expensive suits flanking him like bodyguards. He looked at Lily like she was a stranger. She looked back at him like he was exactly what he'd always been. Last chance, Richard said as they waited for the courtroom to open. Drop the countersuit, apologize, walk away. I'll withdraw everything. And Lily? Ethan asked. Lily made her choice. She chose you over her family. That's her mistake to live with. No, Lily said, stepping forward. I chose myself. Choosing Ethan was just a bonus. And I'm not apologizing for finally figuring out that your version of family was killing me. You're throwing away everything I built for you. You built it for you. I was just supposed to be grateful and obedient and perfect. Well, I'm done being perfect. I'm done pretending your love wasn't conditional. I'm done. She took Ethan's hand. I found people who love me for who I am, not who they want me to be. That's worth more than any trust fund. Richard's jaw tightened. You'll regret this. Maybe. But at least it'll be my regret. My choice. My life. The hearing lasted 40 minutes. The judge, a woman in her 60s with sharp eyes and no patience for nonsense, listened to both sides, and made her ruling. Mr. Hart, your claim is borderline frivolous. Mr. Brooks made statements at a private event that, from the evidence presented, appear to be substantially true. Truth is a complete defense to defamation. Your claim of emotional distress is similarly weak. I'm granting the motion to dismiss. She looked over her glasses at Richard. And Mr. Hart, as someone who's been on the bench for 20 years, let me give you some free advice. Sometimes the best way to prove you're not a bad father is to stop acting like one. The gavel came down. It was over. Outside the courthouse, Jennifer grinned at them. That's about as decisive as it gets. He could appeal, but he won't. It would just make him look worse. So we won? Lily asked, like she couldn't quite believe it. You won. They walked away from the courthouse hand in hand, leaving Richard and his legal team behind. Neither of them looked back. That evening, they celebrated with pizza and cheap wine and Maya doing a victory dance in the living room that involved more spinning than actual dancing. Mrs. Chen came over with dumplings and congratulations, and Rachel brought Sophia and a cake she'd made that said "Truth Wins" in slightly lopsided frosting. It was loud and chaotic and perfect. Later, after everyone had gone home and Maya was asleep upstairs, Ethan and Lily sat on the porch watching snowfall. She was wearing his jacket over her sweater, her head on his shoulder. I can't believe it's really over, she said. It is. What do we do now? Whatever we want. That's kind of the point. She laughed quietly. I don't remember the last time I got to do what I wanted. Then it's time you started. He kissed the top of her head. What do you want, Lily Hart? She was quiet for a long moment, thinking. I want to wake up without being afraid. I want to build a life that's mine. I want to be part of something real. She looked up at him. I want this. You and Maya and terrible jokes and burnt toast and all of it. You've got it, all of it. Just like that? Just like that. What about you? What do you want? Ethan thought about Sarah, about the 3 years he'd spent just surviving, about the grief that had defined him for so long he'd forgotten what anything else felt like, about Maya asking if Lily made them richer and being absolutely right. I want to stop being scared of being happy, he said finally. I want to remember that loving someone doesn't mean I'm betraying Sarah. I want Maya to grow up seeing that it's okay to take chances on people. And I want you. Every complicated, imperfect, brave part of you. I come with a lot of baggage. So do I. We'll get matching luggage. She laughed and kissed him, and it tasted like wine and hope, and the promise of something better than either of them had dared to imagine. 3 months later, Lily officially moved in. Not because she had to, but because she wanted to. Her things mixed with theirs, her books on his shelves, her coffee maker next to his cheap one, her laugh becoming part of the soundtrack of their lives. She got a new job at a marketing firm that valued her ideas instead of her last name. The pay was better, the hours more reasonable, and she came home every day looking like herself instead of like someone pretending to be someone else. Maya's school play in May was the best terrible thing Ethan had ever seen. Maya played tree number 3 with such commitment that the director gave her a special mention in the program. Lily cheered so loud, people 3 rows ahead turned around. Ethan cried during the curtain call for reasons that had nothing to do with the play, and everything to do with the fact that his daughter had 2 people who loved her completely, and maybe that was what family was supposed to look like. Lily's brother called in June. They met for coffee, and he apologized for not understanding sooner. They weren't close, probably never would be, but it was a start. Her mother sent a card on Lily's birthday with a note that said simply, "I'm proud of you." It wasn't enough to fix everything, but it was something. Richard Hart never called, never apologized, never acknowledged that he might have been wrong, but he also never contacted them again, and sometimes absence was its own kind of closure. On a Saturday in August, Ethan found Lily and Maya in the backyard making what appeared to be a fort out of sheets and clothespins. They were arguing about structural integrity with complete seriousness. "I'm telling you, we need more support here," Maya insisted. "But if we add more support, we lose headroom. Then we make it taller." "With what? We're out of clothespins." "Dad!" Maya spotted him. "We need more clothespins. This is an engineering emergency." Ethan laughed and went to find clothespins, and as he rummaged through the kitchen drawer, he caught sight of Sarah's picture on the shelf. She was smiling, frozen in time, forever 32 and full of life. I think you'd like her, he said quietly to the picture. I think you'd like what we're building here. The picture didn't answer, but Ethan could almost hear Sarah's voice in his head. Stop talking to my picture and go help them with the fort, dummy. So he did. They finished the fort as the sun set, a ridiculous structure held together with hope and clothespins that would probably collapse by morning. But for tonight it stood, and the three of them crawled inside and told stories until the stars came out. Maya fell asleep between them, her head on Lily's shoulder, completely trusting and completely loved. Ethan looked at Lily across his daughter's sleeping form and saw his whole future reflected in her eyes. Thank you, he said softly. For what? For being brave enough to ask a stranger to a party, for showing up when Maya was sick, for choosing this life over the easy one, for all of it. Thank you for saying yes, for not running, for loving me when I didn't know how to love myself. She reached across Maya to take his hand. For giving me a real family. We're not perfect. No, but we're real, and that's better. They sat in their ridiculous fort under the summer stars, two broken people who'd found each other and somehow made themselves whole. It wasn't a fairy tale. It wasn't perfect. There would be hard days ahead and challenges they couldn't anticipate, and moments when they'd question everything. But it was theirs, real and messy, and worth every risk they'd taken to get here. And in the end, that was the only thing that mattered. Not the money or the status or the approval of people who'd never really loved them anyway. Just this, the three of them together, building a life from scratch, choosing love over fear every single day. The fort collapsed at midnight, sheets sliding down in a puddle of fabric. Maya barely stirred as Ethan carried her inside. Lily gathered the clothespins and followed them in, turning off lights as she went. They put Maya to bed together, a routine they'd fallen into without planning. Lily tucked the blankets while Ethan kissed Maya's forehead. They moved like they'd been doing this for years instead of months, partners in the most important work there was. In their own room, it was their room now, not just his, they got ready for bed in comfortable silence. Lily wore one of his old t-shirts. He'd given up trying to reclaim his clothes months ago. I have something to tell you, Lily said as they lay in the darkness. Ethan's stomach tightened. Okay. I'm happy. Really, genuinely happy. And it scares me because I keep waiting for something to go wrong. Nothing's going to go wrong. You can't promise that. No, but I can promise that whatever goes wrong, we'll face it together. He pulled her close. And that whatever happens, choosing this, choosing us, will always be the right decision. How can you be so sure? Because for the first time in 3 years, I'm not just surviving, I'm living, and that's because of you. She kissed him, soft and slow, and whispered against his lips, I love you, Ethan Brooks. I love you too, Lily Hart. They fell asleep tangled together, two people who'd started as strangers at a party and become the most important people in each other's lives. Outside, the city slept. Inside, a family dreamed. And in the morning, they'd wake up and do it all over again. The breakfast and the terrible jokes and the ordinary magic of building a life together. Not perfect, not easy, but real. And real, they'd both learned, was worth everything.